When I got my dream job and realized that I actually hated it when I was 22 years old, I had a real existential crisis. I was sitting alone in a studio apartment on a blow-up mattress, making $15 an hour, and my entire plan for my whole future had just crumbled. Because I was like, well, this was the thing I was planning on doing for the rest of my life, and turns out that's not gonna work. It really, I can't even do this for one more year, let alone 40, 50, 60 more years, right? So it felt like I had this blank canvas in front of me and just existential dread. Like, what should I do next? I found a lot of solace in the idea of absurdism. I dove into, and by that I mean watched some YouTube videos on Albert Camus and his idea that there's no inherent meaning. And so you can kind of just choose to end your life here, or if you're not going to do that, then the rest of this is just time to play. It's just time to live your life and do whatever you want. Any meaning that comes from your life is going to have to be made by you. You are going to have to decide what is meaningful to you. And that didn't feel great, right? I wanted some answer. I think a lot of people do, right? Just tell me what to do and I'll do it, and I'll just be, I'll get purpose out of the role that I'm assigned, right? That's actually how humans have derived meaning for a very, very long time. Side note, I think that's a huge value of religion for some people. It's never really worked for me, but that is a huge, huge thing that we all struggle with existentially. And I was confronted with that at 22 years old. My truth at that time was I had a college degree, I was educated, I was highly capable. I had all of these big ideas. I had all of these kind of very specific ways that I wanted to live my life, preferences for working. I wanted to be working on big ideas, expressing myself fully, solving really big problems, making an impact, working on the cutting edge, innovating, being competitive and collaborative in my work, contributing, making big, big differences, working with leverage, all of these things. Highly specific, right? And I wasn't going to be happy just plugging and playing, meaning doing a job where there was just a job description and Ethan plugs in and does the job 8 hours a day for the rest of his life. I knew that about myself, but that was basically the only thing I knew about myself. So what I decided is that I needed to go on a journey of self-mastery. Self-mastery to me, and that's what I've been doing ever since. To me, what that means is understanding who I am, what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy, how my experiences have shaped my behavior, what are my patterns, what are the things that shut me down, what are the things that light me up, what are the things that make me scared, what are the things that make me nervous, what are the things that make me ready to go, right? There's more to it. There's more to it than just that. But self-mastery has been the thing that above all else, I have thrown myself into in the 4 years since I had this existential crisis. I've come to see that I am an incredibly complex person, and I think everyone is. I think that every single person who is watching this video is worth knowing and is worth being understood better. The way that I'm thinking about it right now is if I met a stranger and they asked me, what should I do with the next 40 years of my life? I wouldn't have an answer, right? I'd be like, well, what do you value? What's important to you? What do you like to do? What do you want to avoid? What do you want your lifestyle to be, right? These are questions that we would have to understand about this person in order to answer bigger questions like, what do you want to do? Those questions are self-mastery when we ask them to ourselves, right? We are essentially strangers to ourselves until we begin being more intentional and introspective. When I was 22 years old, I realized I don't really know who I am. I am a consciousness that was born into some sort of body in some sort of, society, you could say, some sort of civilization. And basically, as soon as I could walk and talk and understand words, people were telling me shit and giving me their opinions and giving me information. I went to school. They taught me all these things about biology and English and math and science and I kind of am like, okay, thanks. I learned all this stuff, but it didn't really help me understand my body, my brain, my psyche. Why do I respond really strongly in these certain situations? What are my emotions? What am I even feeling? Those were key things that I didn't understand about myself and am constantly learning more and more. But in those ways, I was a stranger to myself. I didn't know what a fulfilling life actually looked like. And so when I had the blank canvas and I had all the resources and I had the internal drive and I was like, I want to build an amazing life for myself, it had to start with self-mastery and self-understanding. You can't go in a direction when you don't have the map. And so I learned more about personal finance so that I could free up some time to actually do this self-mastery work. I learned about emotions. I learned about internal family systems, which really helped me understand my own psyche. I learned about somatic therapy, somatic practices, helping me understand how to use my body's sensitivities and sensations as information to understand what's actually going on here. Understood to an extent and started to learn about the world around me and the things that other people are going through. Learned more about healthy relating. I learned about codependence, which it turns out is something that has been characterizing a lot of my relationships without me knowing for my entire life. It's like, oh, there's a word for the patterns that I have when it comes to relating with others, right? So that's a very small sampling of the work that I've done. But there is so much to learn about ourselves. And when we learn about ourselves, we also are learning about other people. Lots of other people are experiencing the same things. And when we do enough of this, we build enough self-mastery. First of all, we move through the world much more easily and with much more confidence. Second of all, we are able to help others much more easily and with much more confidence who are at the beginning of their journey. That's what my coaching business is all about. And third, we're able to show up for others outside of kind of the coaching space, but just when we are more coherent, that makes other people more coherent internally, just naturally as it is. If you're not sure what your next step is, self-mastery is absolutely where I would begin. I see too many people asking, what should I do? Who should I be? What should I pursue? What does success look like? And they're looking for external answers. They're looking for other people to tell them. There's all these gurus out there, I could probably name a dozen, who are just spewing stuff. They're saying, here's my opinion, here's what I think. The answers come from within, because whatever works for them isn't necessarily going to work for you. You need to understand, who are you and what are those answers for yourself. That's what this work is all about.